Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing today? I hope you are doing very, very well. It is a lovely Wednesday here. Fall is finally in the air and it's getting cooler. We have rain on the way, so I'm really enjoying the chilly weather. I hope that fall has reached you, if that is the season you are in, and that you are finding lots of cozy places to read. I think Chris of Chris's Bookish Cauldron said that he already had snow on the ground. That to me seems sort of crazy because that means winter is here, and I'm not quite ready for winter because I feel like fall hasn't arrived yet. So I hope you guys are all doing very, very well today. I'm coming to you with a different sort of video for me in that I am going to be doing a TBR video for the month of November. Now, as you guys know, I don't normally do TBR videos. I don't stick to them very well. I'm very much a mood reader, but I was kind of looking through my shelves and noticing there is a bunch of stuff that I would like to read by the end of the year. And also, I'm going to participate in Tome Topple at the end of the month, which I'll tell you about more about later. And so I was like, maybe I will try to create a TBR. Now this is a loose TBR, as you know, things can change, a new book can come out, something will just call to me. But these are books that I really would like to read this month. Now, I know it's Nonfiction November, and I won't be participating in Nonfiction November. I'm not much of a nonfiction reader, and I would just set myself up to probably not read that much this month if I were to say I was going to read only nonfiction. But I've been fascinated by the TBRs that people have been putting on for Nonfiction November and picking ideas, because I'd like to read more nonfiction. I just need to get myself to do it and find stuff that I enjoy. So I'm going to be sticking with my normal literary fiction, science fiction, fantasy stuff, and hopefully you guys will like some of it and come along for the ride. So the first three books I'm going to tell you about have been talked about a bit, so I'm going to spend as little time as possible on them. The first one is Jeanette Winterson's Orange is Not the Only Fruit. Funny story, I hauled this in my used bookstore haul from Eugene, Oregon, forgetting that while I was there, I had already placed a new copy order for this book at my independent bookstore, Books Inc. in Santa Clara. So when I got back, this came in and now I have two copies. But I have to tell you, this cover is flippin' fantastic. So as you guys probably know, this is the story of a young orphan girl named Jeanette who is adopted into a very religious family. It's the story of that family, those ideas, and how they are sort of flipped on their head as she comes to terms with her sexuality. I've heard nothing but rave reviews about this book. I've heard it's beautifully written and the story is compelling, and I've been wanting to read Jeanette Winterson forever, so here we go. November, I'm going to do it. That's Orange is Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. And that cover, guys, come on. The next book I picked up is also a little bit outside my comfort zone, and that is Black-Eyed Susans by Julia Heaberlin. I picked this up as part of Simon and Pip's Crime Time. They are doing this as their read for their new series on Simon's channel. Excuse me. I don't read a lot of crime, but I'm always fascinated by it, so I thought, hey, this sounded like the right type of book to get me into it. This is the story of a teenage girl, Tessa Cartwright, who's found barely alive in a field of black-eyed Susans with a bunch of bodies of other women. She is haunted as an adult by the ghosts of these women and also by the fact that her testimony may or may not have put the incorrect person into jail for the crimes. I think that sounds really interesting. I'm kind of excited that my first crime book will be with Simon and Pip, and I can kind of read and listen to how they talk about it. So that's Black-Eyed Susans by Julia Heaberlin. I'm going to need a little sip of my soda real quick. Hold on. Oh, sorry, something stuck in my throat there for a minute. The next book I picked up was because of Joce. I hope you guys really liked our video together in the bookstore that we did last week. I totally adored meeting her, and she gave me some great recommendations, and one of them was Fever Dreams by Samanta Schweblin. This book is originally written in Portuguese, she's Brazilian, and translated by Megan McDowell. The way that she sold this to me is this is the story of a woman who is dying and a conversation she has with a young boy. It is supposedly a little bit all over the place. It's crazy and convoluted and like the front cover sort of cracked. And there's this horse coming out the crack. So I don't know what that's going to be about. But she said that it's very compelling and readable, and she really liked it. And it's very short. So that's Fever Dream by Samanta Schweblin. And I know it's been around a bit, and I really have wanted to read it. So I'm excited to put that in my TBR. The next book I also bought because of Joce, but she didn't talk about it on the channel. As we were exiting East Bay Booksellers, there was a book that was the second in a series, and she's like, Russell, have you read this? You really should read the first one. And that is River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey. And this is an alternate United States book, so it's kind of science fiction in that it's in a different world that is our world, but it's very straightforward. This is about cowboys and people who hunt, get ready for it, hippos in America as a source of meat. And this is about hippo hunters in America. And I thought it's actually set in Louisiana, through the marshlands of Louisiana. So I said Midwest, that's not right. But it's set in the 1890s. And I think what really sort of compelled me was this line: other true things about hippos. They are savage. They are fast. And their jaws can snap a man in two. So it's a terrible idea to hunt hippos as a source of meat. And this is a crazy adventure novel about that. So I thought that sounded really interesting and fun, sort of a fast, get me through it read. And Joce really recommended it. Sorry, Joyce is my ex-mother-in-law's name, and for some reason popped into my head right there. So the next book I'm going to tell you about is a book that I found at Green Apple Books on the Park in San Francisco when I was there for the Sarah Schmidt reading. She wrote that book about, I can't remember the title of it off the top of my head, but she wrote that book, the book about Lizzie Borden that has been around, and she was fantastic, but I did some shopping beforehand. And one of the books I got was Paulina Fran by Rachel B. Glaser. I was really compelled by this cover. This is the story of two school-age girls that meet at boarding school. One is the popular, outgoing, sexually adventurous Queen Bee. The other one is the quiet artist. They are drawn together on a trip to Norway. They start a relationship, and then life and love and sort of everything gets in the way. I just thought that sounded very... I like books set in schools that turn into relationships for lifetimes. I like the idea that it's a lesbian romance, and I had never heard of it before, and I just think the cover is fantastic. And that's Pauline and Fran by Rachel B. Glaser. It's actually published by Harper Perennial. I don't know why I haven't seen this book before, but it's not going to be a long read, so I'm super excited about that one. The next book I heard about on Mercedes' channel when she talked about it, and that's The Lost Daughter Collective by Lindsey Drager. Sorry, I put an extra N in there. This is the story of a group of fathers that gets together to mourn the loss of their daughters. One of the daughters is known to be missing, but the reason or why she's missing is unknown, and it sort of hangs over this group. And I've heard this book is just crazy. It's very satirical, and I like this last line. It says, Drager's satirical exploration of gender politics and identity queers the old adage. A son is a son till he finds himself a wife, but a daughter is a daughter all her life. And I thought this just sounded really interesting when Mercedes talked about it. So that's The Lost Daughter Collective by Lindsey Drager. I don't know why I keep wanting to put an N in there. The next book is one that I've actually already started, and that's The Border of Paradise by Esme, Weijun, Wang. And I started this and had to put it down because of a book club book. Now, this is published by Unnamed Press, which you know how much I love them. And Esme was listed as one of the 35 writers to watch by Granta. This is the story right after the World War in Brooklyn, the story of a young boy who's always been an outcast who becomes the heir to his family fortune. He leaves the country and comes back with a young Taiwanese wife, and they have children, and they escape into the mountains and forests of Northern California. It's really a story about the real world pulling the children back into it as they deal with how crazy their parents are. I will say I got about 50 or 60 pages in. The writing is really dense, but it is beautiful and descriptive, and I really, really loved the idea and how the book was setting itself up. I have not been disappointed with any books by Unmain Press, so this is The Border of Paradise by Esme, Weijun, Wang, and I'm super excited to get to that one. Now, Tome Topple. I'm kind of going fast, which is good because I don't want this video to be super long. Tome Topple is happening at the end of the month, November 17th through November 30th. I will link Joce's video where I learned about it. There are a number of people who are supporting it, so I will actually link all of their channels down below so you can find them. This is sort of a, it's not a readathon as much as sort of an invitation to read those longer books that have been standing on your shelf. There are a number of topics, but I'm really going to just focus on reading books that are longer that I've been meaning to get to. And one of them I'm going to buddy read, and you're not going to be surprised to see it, because I've wanted to read it all year long, and that is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. Now, this is currently a finalist for the National Book Award, so by the time I read it, it may be the winner of the National Book Award, and I've heard nothing but fantastic things about this book. This is the story of a young Korean girl who has a lover and gets pregnant. He abandons her, so she marries a clergyman who is suffering from tuberculosis in Japan and moves there. This is a family saga that deals with the Korean Japanese and the way they are treated in Japanese culture. It's also the story of how they come to be successful in their own right and how this family makes and marks through time. I told you Roxane Gay loved this book. Everyone I know who's read it is loved it. The paperback comes out on November 14th, so I'm actually going to pick that up for Tome Topple because I want an easier version to read, and plus this is signed to me, so I don't want to get it destroyed. But I'm super excited about Pachinko from Min Jin Lee. The other book that I'm going to try to read the second week of Tome Topple is actually a graphic novel. Woof. And that is Sculptor by McCloud. Now, I've had this book on my shelf for ages, and the art is just stark and beautiful, and I'm super excited about it. This is the story of an artist who basically makes a deal with death that he can create any art that he wants to in his lifetime. He has 200 days left. He's having a hard time figuring out what type of art he wants to create, and he falls in love with the love of his life, and it's kind of about that decision. It's the decision of what do you do at this point where you know you have a finite amount of time, you fall in love, you've made this deal, what kind of art do you create? So it's about art, it's about relationships, about love, it's about regret, and it's about everything that sounds fantastic. So that's Sculptor by McCloud, and that is going to be the second book I read for Tome Topple. So that is my November TBR. Have you guys read any of these books? Have you want to discuss them down below? I would love it. Do you guys do TBRs? Does it work for you? Because as I told you, it normally doesn't work for me. So that's why this is probably an ish TBR. If you are a return subscriber, as always, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you are new to my channel, I hope you liked this video. And talk to me down below, guys. And until next time, happy reading. And as always, bye.